Hey friends, I hope the morning's treating you well. It's a perfectly gloomy, rainy, foggy morning here in Indianapolis, and I figured I'd come down to a perfectly gloomy and rainy location of an almost abandoned strip mall. What's more gloomy than a strip mall these days? But I hope you got your coffee. I got mine, got it from a local joint, and Happy New Year. I hope the New Year's treating you guys. I hope it's going to treat you however you want it to be. Hope it's a safe and healthy and very normal and boring New Year. Wouldn't that be great? A nice boring year. But as opposed to these exciting years we've had. I guess these haven't been exciting years. But I wanted to talk about today is the anniversary of the death of Townes Van Zandt and of Hank Williams. And Hank Sr. passed away. It's been quite a while now. I don't even remember what the year was, but he was found in the back of his Cadillac in West Virginia. A few years ago, me and my buddy Todd got this idea. Let's retrace Hank Williams' last days, like start in Austin. His last gig he ever played, like the public gig, was in Austin, Texas at the Skyline Club. And it's also the same place that Johnny Horton played his last gig. And there's a picture of a very young Doug Somm, as a kid, in his cowboy getup, right there with Hank Williams. And if you Google it, you'll see that. If you've never seen it, it's Doug Somm, S-A-H-M. And you'll see that picture, which is a beautiful, iconic photo, and it's Hank's last gig. But Todd and I got this idea that we wanted to do a road trip where we would just retrace his last week or so of his life. And it just became really expensive, and we didn't have enough free time to do it. So I've been to all of the locations that I wanted to go to before, but I wanted to do them all in one trip and film it and make a big thing of it. And this was before I was really doing, what we're doing here with this YouTube channel. And it was a bit of a daunting task, and my abilities didn't really match up to it, so it just never happened. But we went down to Austin, and we went to where the Skyline Club was, and it's a CVS now, or a Walgreens. I forget which big chain thing it is, but that's where it's at now. It's really sad. And besides the Hank Sr. connection, historic club, which shame that history wasn't preserved, but we filmed a lot of stuff around there, and I told a little story. I just never shared it. Maybe one day I'll put that together. And from there we were going to go, start driving towards Alabama, and we would go to Georgiana, Montgomery. I can't remember whether he went to Georgiana right there at the Inner Knob, but went to Montgomery. I think he played some songs at a private function for, I don't remember what it was. I should say right now that I'm doing all of this from memory, and the gist of what I'm saying is accurate and true, but some details might be a little foggy. So you definitely want to Google around and learn some more and teach me in the comments. But so from there, he'd go on to Knoxville, and is it the Andrew Jackson Motel? I forget the name of the motel, but I've been there before. But that's the last place he ever slept. It's right downtown. It still stands. I believe it's an office building now is what it's used for. It was later a site for wrestling conventions where you could go there and see all of your favorite old school wrestlers back in the day. And I think they even had matches there. But and I've heard stories about it was really run down, in that area, like in the 70s or 80s. But so Hank got in the car, and he was driven towards his what would have been his final gig, and they stopped in Bristol at, I don't remember the name of the place. There's a hamburger joint there, right there in downtown Bristol, and his driver stopped and went in and got something to eat. And I think he bought Hank some stuff, but I don't know. I don't think Hank actually ate anything. He just stayed in the car. But I've been there. I got pie, because it might have been the last place Hank Sr. ever ate, It's a really cool. You guys will tell me the name of it because I don't remember the name. But he went on through the night and drove into West Virginia, where he was found when they stopped at a gas station, and the driver realized he was dead. Now, I've always thought that when I interview people, when people would ask me, who's the perfect interview guest, and they're probably expecting me to say, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen or some big, huge name. You know, I don't even know, Neil Young, which all those would be amazing and great. Joni Mitchell, you know, but I had to do a quick edit because somebody drove by with some hip-hop music, and YouTube will make me take this down if I leave that in. So when people ask me who my perfect guest would be, it'd be the guy that drove Hank Williams that night. You know, he could tell a story that, you know, if you interviewed Hank, that you wouldn't get that story. And I think Peter Cooper got to interview that guy before he passed away a while back, and that interview is probably online somewhere, which we should all look that up. But I also wanted to point out that today was the anniversary of Townes Van Zandt's passing. He passed away in 1997 on New Year's Day, and the last couple weeks of his life was definitely interesting. I don't remember the chronology of all of this, but is it Steve Shelley from Sonic Youth? Sonic Youth signed a big deal to Geffen Records, and you know there was that whole thing where they were an indie band and we're going to stay indie. And when David Geffen wanted them to sign, you know, to be a major, they came up with these ideas of they had a few different artists that they liked, and they wanted to see if they could bring them along with them. If they were going to get the benefit of these things that come along with a major, maybe they could spread this around to artists that they believed in and thought were really great. And one of those artists was Townes Van Zandt. And Steve Shelley, what the deal would be Geffen would pay for the recording of projects that the members of Sonic Youth wanted to do with other artists, and then Geffen would use its huge, enormous blowtorch of a publicity machine to get people to know more about that artist. And so there was a record. Steve Shelley contacted Townes and asked him, you know, would you make a record in Memphis coming up? And he said, yeah. So Townes traveled to Memphis. I don't even know if any of this stuff ever got released. It has to be out by now. I remember reading an article about it like 15 years ago, and most of what I'm saying is from memory of that article. So let's follow up and make sure some of these details are correct. But I don't know if it's out there. I've never heard it. I feel kind of bad that I've never heard that. I'm going to have to go look at it as soon as I turn off this camera. But Townes traveled to Memphis and recorded some stuff, and then he came back home. Somewhere in this window, he broke his hip. He fell down on his porch, and believed that it took him an hour or so to get inside and call somebody, and it just got steadily worse. And he ended up going back to Memphis for another session, and he was in a wheelchair, and he was in really, really bad shape. And they called off the session and said, you got to go to a hospital. And he promised he'd go to a hospital, but he was going to go back to Nashville first. So he went back to Nashville, and I guess he went into a hospital, and then he wanted to go home, so they let him out, and he ended up dying on January 1st, 1997. I believe the official cause of death was a heart attack, and I'm sure it's, you know, anyway, it's a sad, sad thing that we don't have Townes anymore, but, you know, this would be a great day to listen to Townes music, be a great day to listen to Hank Williams music. Maybe you guys can tell me down below what's your favorite Townes songs, what's your favorite Hank Sr. songs. And on second thought, I thought about making a video about this one day, where maybe this is not the best day to listen to Townes and Hank Sr. It's really super gloomy, and if you're the sort of person who has a problem with the blahs, you know, seasonal depression, seasonal affective disorder, and stuff like that, listening to Townes can, you know, really make that a lot worse. So maybe we want to save that for a sunnier, brighter day, and you know, maybe listen to something a little more happy. I don't know what that is. I like happy music. I just don't know. I can't think of it right off the top of my head sometimes. Grandpa was a carpenter. That's happy stuff. And maybe White Freightliner. That's happy, uplifting stuff from Townes. But anyway, I also wanted to talk about this week. John Madden passed away. Now, I know a lot of you don't know anything about John Madden and don't care, but I have a story I've never been able to share. This is a good time to share it with people. So you guys that don't know who John Madden was, he was a football coach for the Oakland Raiders, great coach, and he became an announcer and was like the main guy on NFL broadcasts for quite a while, and then retired. Okay, but he was afraid of flying, so when he would do his announcing gigs, he would take a tour bus. So if he did a Giants game in New York on one Monday or on Sunday, he would have a Seattle game the next Sunday. So he would just take off, and they would drive him all the way across the country in a tour bus. And then, if he had a Philadelphia win the next time, he came all the way across the country again. That's how he spent the season. And he has this reputation as being a everyman, which I'm a sucker for that. Really, really smart guy, really high. He could talk to you about art and a lot of different things, but that's not the image that he would put forth. Just every guy you want to have a beer with is the image that they sold of him. But I stopped off. Here's my story. I don't remember where this was, and I'm hoping that by saying this in public, you guys can help me and I can solve this mystery. I think it was in Missouri or Oklahoma, I think, but I'm not sure. I stopped off at a truck stop sometime at the end of the 90s, mid-90s. It was an old truck stop, one of the last of the dinosaurs on the road that you would see, and it was really run down, was not in great shape, which made me like it even more. Nothing fancy about it. And when you go inside, there was a wall with just a bunch of John Madden memorabilia along this wall, a bunch of sign stuff, and there was a sign. I say sign, it seems like it was some homemade thing that may have been drawn by hand that said the official truck stop of John Madden and the All Madden team. And that struck me, and I asked, I'm like, is this like something that he designated? And they said, yes, this is his favorite truck stop. And he told us that we could be the official truck stop of John Madden. And I thought that was freaking great. Just because the place, it was so real. And it was a page out of a past that, we just don't see anymore. And I thought that was cool of him. Years go by, and I don't think about John Madden or anything. So, I didn't even know. My cousin called me. Actually, he texted me and said, did you know John Madden died? And my cousin was like my brother growing up. And we would watch Oakland Raiders games. We liked the Raiders, and it'll always be Oakland to me. But we liked the Raiders. It wasn't our favorite team, but it was one we liked. It had black uniforms, skulls, pirates, And then John Matuzak, Ken Stabler, Lester Hayes with all that stickum. Really great players, great colorful characters. Fred Bolitnikoff. We really enjoyed all of that. Well, my cousin told me John Madden passed away. And that truck stop story jumped into my head. And I kind of texted that back to him. And I was thinking, man, where in the hell was that? And I don't remember. So if you guys know where that was, I got a feeling somebody out there has been to that truck stop, and you might live down the street from, I hope it's still in business, but I really kind of doubt it. It's probably a Flying J or a Pilot by now, or they've opened one across the street and ran it out of business. But if you know that, tell me. And I think the last thing I want to share with you guys, actually not the last thing, but did anybody out there play any New Year's Eve gigs? I haven't done a New Year's Eve gig in years. It's when you're the guy, when you do what I do, if I can say an acoustic thing by yourself, it's not the best New Year's gig. There's a lot of, we call it amateur night in the bar industry. But I've played quite a few back when with bands, and it was fun. But those of you who have played New Year's Eve gigs, you know this, where it's fun and it's cool, and people come out and you're having a good time. Midnight comes around, everybody sings, kissed your loved one or whatever, and then about a half hour later, everybody's kind of over it, and they go home, and there you're standing there playing for another hour or so while people leave the club. That's kind of my memories of New Year's Eve gigs. Had a couple where I opened for somebody much bigger than me, like a bigger draw, so I'm done early in the evening, and then you can just go do whatever. If you want to stay, that's cool. If you want to hang out, but I mean, you're done. That was pretty cool. And the money was always great for New Year's Eve gigs, like really, really good money. And so hopefully you guys, if you played one last night, you played a safe one, and you made a lot of money and paid them bills. But do you guys have any goals for 2022? I figured I would, every year I make a little list for myself of, I'm not a goal-oriented person. I just want to be happy. And that changes. Whatever happy means changes a lot, as the years go by, as the months go by. So if I lock myself into this equals happy, it might not equal happy 5 years from now. So I want to be able to adjust to that. So goals are weird. But I figured I would write out some goals, and I'm going to read them to you guys. They're, you learn a little bit about me. These are the notes that I make for myself to remind myself. It's my goals, my 2022 goals. Goal number 1 is make a new album. Might do it, might not. I'd like to make a new album. I've only played about 25 gigs on my last album, but I've always said that I don't make records to fit touring cycles. I make records to reflect where I'm at artistically at the moment. So, maybe it's a good year to make another record. That's number 1. These are in no order whatsoever, but we'll say number 1, make a new record. Number 2, avoid drunks. That's been pretty easy over the last couple years, being isolated. I haven't been around many drunks at all, but it's always a good thing to do. So avoid drunks. I've joked for years that when I'm on my deathbed, the only regret that I'll have is the time that I've spent listening to drunk people talk. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Number 3, spit off bridges. It's important. We need to spit off bridges. I need more opportunities to do that. Number 4, throw rocks at stuff. I have not spent enough time throwing rocks at stuff in the last year or two, and I need to do more of that. And it's kind of hard. Maybe it's a guy thing, maybe it's a girl thing, I don't know. But if you get a couple guys standing on the edge of a bridge, and it's just, you see a long way down and you're leaning over, somebody's going to spit. Hopefully there's nothing down below, and it might turn into a contest. It always turns into a contest. But I think the throw rocks at stuff is the same way. Or if you could set down a beer can, and you're 50 feet away and you're standing in a driveway full of rocks, somebody's going to say, I bet you $1 I can hit that before you do. You got a whole afternoon's full of entertainment right there. All right, throw rocks at stuff, number 4. Number 5, poke things with a stick. I think you guys are starting to see where I'm coming from on some of this stuff. Number 6, this is a very important one. Avoid people who talk about their brand. That's one thing I will never miss about Nashville. Or how in the hell did we get to a point where artists refer to what they do as their brand? What in the hell does that say? That one's never set well with me. And people want to compliment me sometimes about, you're so good with branding. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? I don't know. I don't communicate well in those circles. And I just find myself quietly shaking my head and wondering what the hell they're talking about. But let's see. And this one kind of goes along with the last one, but this has been an ongoing one for me for a few years. But I need to mix into random conversations. That's not going to work for me, brother. Just randomly every now and then people ask me something. That's not going to work for me, brother. So when Barry was talking about Waylon saying no, that really hit a nerve with me because, man, I say no to everything. I mean, literally. I'm not joking. Over the last 15, 20 years, everything got better when I just started saying no to everything and telling, no, man, I just don't want to do that. That doesn't sound fun. No. And it's people you like asking you about stuff, but no, I don't want to do that. You guys will have more fun without me doing that. And, I don't want to, stand up on stage pretending we're all celebrities, and end the show with all of us singing The Wait. I don't want to do that. I've never been out to see a band play. Everybody likes to make fun of what's it called? The Wagon Wheel. Everybody makes fun of people playing that. I've never been out and heard a band play Wagon Wheel. But man, I've heard countless people butcher The Wait over and over and over again. And no, I don't want to do that. Anyway, so number 9 or number 8, I think, is plant some flowers. Need to plant more flowers. And that's kind of a metaphor. Plant some things. I'm a believer that this is those of you who live out in the middle of nowhere and you're cut off from music centers, like Nashville or New York or LA and things like that. I look at that as like that's where the supermarket is. So if you don't live near the supermarket, you can't go to the supermarket. You need to plant a garden, and you need to cultivate where you're at locally and make it something that other people, make it somewhere where you can survive and subsist. And maybe by doing that, other people will be like, look what's going on over there. That's pretty cool. And I think people don't talk about that enough, but plant some flowers, put something beautiful out into the world, and maybe something good will come back. But at least you feel good putting something good out there. I guess that's this channel. That's this whole thing. Throw messages in the bottle, throw them out into the ocean, and see if anybody finds them. And what was the last one? I hope it's an uplifting after some of these nice things I've said. Oh, yeah. So, okay, make at least 100 paintings. That's a hard one because this channel, I really like painting, and I went years without sharing any of the stuff that I did, but like when the pandemic started, I sold some paintings, and it really helped. Like a lot of you guys bought these paintings from me, and it like paid our bills and was nice, and it was not this thing that I did just because I enjoyed it. I think I sold 42 of them, and so I might do that again this year. It's not about it's the act of doing it, the act of making something, and you have no intention of sharing it with anybody. It's just I want the time spent. It's slow. It's with my hands. It doesn't have to do with a computer. There's no gizmos. It's just getting a little bit dirty, and you're making things, and you're trying, and a lot of the stuff just sucks, but that's okay. You just try. It's the time that I'm spending is the important part. And then every now and then you're like, well, I kind of like that. That actually, I feel good about that. I feel like I would show that to somebody and feel good about it. And then maybe somebody would enjoy having that in their home. And it'll be hard to make 100 because this channel has eaten into that time quite a lot. The time that I'm spending with you guys is time that I was spending painting, but I think this is time well spent and constructive. So maybe I'll find a little more balance with that. But that's my last New Year's. It's not a resolution. That's kind of lame, but that's my goal of the next year. What are your goals for the next year? What's personal, some things that you would like to just make you feel better about day to day if you did that? And what's your favorite Hank Williams songs? What's your favorite Townes Van Zandt songs? And thank you so much for those of you who have hit the tip jar over the last year. It's been so helpful. You guys were generous last week. I really appreciate it. And I guess one of my goals is to try to find a way to make this here sustainable. If I invest so much time into it that get a little something back out of it. And when you guys hit the tip jar, it helps out an awful lot. There's other ways too. If you don't have money, if you can't spare it or whatever, that's fine. Just enjoy this. I'm not trying to give you a guilt trip. I don't mean it like that at all. I think it's beautiful you spend time here. And that's all I want to say. But for those of you things have been better for and you want to support this, that's beautiful. Wow, I feel awkward just talking about money sometimes. So I'm not a money-driven person. If I was a money-driven person, I'd be talking about my brand a little more. But anyway, I'm going to finish my coffee and I'm going to walk out into the foggy rain of this dreary subdivision, and I'm going to face 2022 head on. I hope you guys do too. Much love to y'all.